Fight Mike here. Today I'm going to be matchmaking after UFC Vegas took place over the weekend, where Brandon Royval and Manel Kape had a great fight where Manel Kape was able to get a round one finish over Brandon. And I've matchmade all of the interesting fighters on the card in a way that makes sense scheduling wise for the UFC and career progression wise for the athletes themselves. But starting off with the winner of the main event, I've made Manel Kape versus Tatsuro Taira. Look, I know that Taylor is probably going to be fighting Joshua Van next, and I know that that is what the UFC wants to make, but if they don't make that fight, they need to make this. If they're going to make Pantoja versus Van, this is the fight to make for the next title shot. And honestly, I think Manel Kape probably beats him in this one. He's got the explosive takedown defense. He's got really fast hand. He's super dangerous in the striking. If Taylor doesn't get Manel Kape out of there and out of there quite quickly, I think Manel Kape will put some damage on him. But you have to really give Kape the opportunity for the belt if you're giving it to Taylor, because Kape beat Royval, who beat Moreno, who Taylor beat. So Taylor's biggest, it's such a stupid thing to say, but Taylor's biggest win is against Brandon Moreno, who literally lost to Royval last year. And Manel Kape smoked Royval, who last year again beat Tatsuro Taira as well. So if you're going to give it to Taira, you have to give it to Kape, because he beat the guy who beat the guy. And then even then, if you want to say it like this, Manel Kape beat Royval, who beat Taira last year. So how is Taira going to skip the line over a guy who beat the guy that beat him? So I think that this is the fight to make next. If it's not this fight, I think it should be Manel Kape versus Pantoja. Manel Kape versus Joshua Van. But it's not like Taylor's made himself undeniable. He got a win over Hyun-Sun Park and then one good win over Brandon Moreno. It's almost like he's on a one-fight winning streak. So I can't really say that he deserves it and that he's super undeniable. And if Kape skips the line, at least it's because he's super interesting. He's a really fun fighter to watch. He's on a multiple fight winning streak. I want to say maybe like a 4-fight winning streak since that Muhammad Makayev fight. Let me count this up really quickly. 1 win over Brandon Royval. 1 win over Asu Almabayev. That's 2. Win over Bruno Silva. So he's on a 3-fight winning streak at least. And the loss to Muhammad Makayev earlier on last year was pretty close. So you could arguably give it to him as well. So I reckon that this is the fight to make. And if it's going to be Taylor versus Kape, you get a real contender there. Moving on for Brandon Royval, who suffered a pretty tough loss to Manel Kape. Matched him up with Asu Almabayev or Brandon Moreno, whoever's able to win this fight early in February. Because there's not really much left for Royval. If you look at the top 5 of the division, he's fought Tatsuro Taira. Amir Albazi and Kyoji Horiguchi are already matched up to fight. So the only other name there is Brandon Moreno or Asu. And that's what we're going to give him, because you could do like a Charles Johnson rematch. I saw a couple of people making that fight, but Charles Johnson should look to return back into the octagon soon. And Royval's likely going to need some time off. So scheduling-wise, the winner of this matchup, which should be in February, I think late February, will be ready for when Royval is looking to come back into the octagon. So I think that this is a good fight to make. Moving on, we've got for Kevin Vallejos, who got a great win over Giga Chikadze. I've made Kevin Vallejos versus Josh Emmett. Now, this is an absolute powerhouse matchup. You know that this is a powerhouse. You know one of these guys is getting slept. And for Josh Emmett, he's coming off a couple of losses here now. I want to say he's on a 2-fight losing streak. But for Josh Emmett, I think that he needs to really fight someone who's unranked. He's been fighting good opposition for a long time, and he's coming off a fair few losses. So for Josh Emmett, he really needs either an unranked guy or a guy who's barely ranked. And Kevin Vallejos, even though we all love him, he is barely ranked. And yeah, looking at this here, it's awful. In Josh Emmett, the last 5 fights, he's had 1 win. There was the Yair Rodriguez, he gets finished in that one, gets 50-43 by Ilya Topuria, beats Bryce Mitchell on short notice, then loses 2 straight to Yusuf Zalal and Lerone Murphy. Look, they're all very good opponents, and they're all top 10 level opponents, but Now that you've lost to all of them, you have to face someone who's a little bit lower ranked down, and Kevin Vallejos is that guy. I didn't really want to give him too big of a jump up, though, because I know that Kevin Vallejos is asking for Cub Swanson. That's an awful fight. I don't want to give him Cub Swanson, but if we're going to make a fight that's sort of not like a huge step up, give him Josh Emmett. It's still a big challenge. It's still a very tough guy to come up against, but he's not an unreasonable amount of difficulty to get past Josh Emmett for Kevin Vallejos here. Moving on to the guy that Kevin Vallejos brutally beat with his spinning back fist, Giga Chikadze. I've matched him up with Mayron Santos. Giga's going to be unranked, and it's going to be a good return for him to come up against a predominant striker. And Mayron Santos looked really good last time out against Muhammad Naimov, and I just want to say he didn't look too good, though. So I think it's a approachable matchup for Giga here. Giga may need some more time than this, though. Mayron's fought, I think it was at UFC 323. Yeah, it was 323, so I think that's the time. He might want to come back quicker than Giga's available, but Giga should be looking to return maybe around May, June, just because he took a decent amount of damage, got knocked out. But he's still older, so he shouldn't try and take too much time off so he can preserve his prime. But against Mayron Santos here, he has at least got the range on Mayron. Mayron could have the reach on him, but Giga would be able to pose some threats for Mayron in the striking. Moving on, we've got Melky Zayel Costa. I've matched him up with David Onama. Melky absolutely deserved a shot into the rankings. You can't snub him now. He's been on 5 wins in a row with 3 finishes. And what he did to Sharia with that head kick is exactly what he needed to get a ranked matchup. And David Onama just lost to Steve Garcia. Looked a bit like a victim out there. So needs to get a shot at an unranked opponent. And Melky deserves it most out of it. Absolutely anyone. Apart from maybe what's that guy's name? Trains with Sean Brady. Just beat that guy. God, this looks bad. This is really annoying me. Pat Sabatini. So if Pat Sabatini is the one that gets the ranking shot next, maybe you can snub him, but Melky does deserve it just as much as Pat Sabatini, so I think that they should give it to him. Moving on for Bobby Green, I've given him Mateusz Rebecki. And it's not necessarily a reward for Bobby Green. He got his easy matchup with Lance Gibson Jr., which was basically a free paycheck for Bobby Green. But we need to reward Rebecki for constantly giving us Fight of the Year contenders. And he keeps getting these killers one after the other. Let's just see how he deals with the Unk Maxer of Bobby Green. Bobby's plodding forward, hands below his waist. We need to see how he deals with that. With a faster guy like Mateusz Rebecki, it's not like we haven't seen that before, but Rebecki needs an easier opponent. Let's give him Bobby Green. Now, for Yaroslav Amosov, I put him up against D-Rod. Get Amosov in there soon, and if he beats Magny, he deserves a ranked opponent, and D-Rod's ranked 15. That's sort of the only reason I made it. I made it because there wasn't really anyone else in the 10 to 15 range that's probably fighting soon, so Yaroslav Amosov was the one to make it versus D-Rod, and I think that this would be a pretty fun fight. Now, last one for Steven Asplund. I've made Steven Asplund versus Josh Hokett. I just want to see these two guys interact. You know, fight week is going to be weird as you're going to have Asplund rubbing his boobs into Josh Hokett while Hokett saying some racial slurs. It's sort of just what you need in a fight week. Maybe put it on the prelims of a good pay-per-view and we'll all be excited for it. Let me know what fights you would make after the card in the comment section below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.